microphone?
No, you good, man.
We're good. Do I stand or do I sit? What's better? All right. It's a class.
This is your master class.
Hopefully, y'all pass the test then, I guess. So I'm Deron Guidrey. I'm born and raised from Houston, Texas. Moved here to Dallas 2012, I believe. Graduated in 2009 from University of Texas of Tyler in East Texas. And, I went into the world of sports. My first job was working at a sports agency doing sports marketing. And I didn't like it. I felt like I was working for the bosses and not getting anything from it. And my stepdad told me, he said, look, you got to change your mindset. You're working for the man with the 3 letters of, I can't say the agency's name, but he said, change your mindset and do your own thing. And I was like, look, I'm broke. I don't have any money. Unless you give me a loan or something like that. But I stepped out and I created my own sports marketing agency with another partner. We built it to a great business, sold it, and it was an amazing ride with that. That was 2016 that happened. So when I went on to do that, I was able to figure out what was next in my path. And I was like, all right, well, what's next? And I saw this huge opportunity where athletes were creating their own media companies now, production companies, and ownership of your IP is so important in all things, intellectual property. And I saw they were using YouTube, they were using Instagram, TikTok, all these other platforms, but it wasn't giving them what they needed. And I had this grandiose idea, this big vision, and said, what if I could create the first ever athlete-owned TV network, and bring all these athletes together, guys and girls together, like the Golf Channel. That was founded by Arnold Palmer, who's a, famous golfer, and now it's owned by Comcast, and it does about $300 million a year in revenue. And his legacy lives on through that network still. His family still gets paid forever because Comcast owns it. So I said, what if I can do that? The Tennis Channel, same thing. And I said, well, athletes should have their own network, and be able to have their own place of distribution, ownership. And now we did it. We are now on Amazon Prime Video as of a couple weeks ago. We're on Sling TV. We're on YouTube TV. We're the first ever athlete-owned TV network. And no, thank you so much. And that ride was hard. It wasn't easy. I'm not one of those speakers. I'm going to give you guys this feel-good stuff. I'm going to tell you what's real, the hardness of it all. And how many people had ideas in here? How many people had ideas that they didn't pursue it? Yeah. Happens a lot, and I think it's the fear of, and I always say all the time, faith hurts. The believing in the unknown that you don't know what can happen, what's going to happen, believing in the unseen. I'm a Christian man myself, and I'm like, God, that's hard, man. It's hard. Believing in the unknown. Faith hurts. But I think when you realize that the beauty in that faith and being able to go know that you're chosen to create something, and the heartbreaking thing is seeing someone do your idea. You're like, dang, I had that idea 4 years ago, but you didn't step out on it at the end of the day. Because you go talk to some friends, some family members, some quote unquote advisors, right? They know it all, and they detoured you from your idea, your vision. And when that happens, people look back and say, dang, I listened to John Dover here. He told me, don't do it. It's too expensive. Don't do it. No one's going to buy it. And detoured them from their dream and their vision. Or they could have been in a bad relationship with somebody that didn't want to give them the empowerment to step out in their dreams and their pursuit. And that happens as well, too. So people's dreams are constantly being robbed every single day, And I felt like for my dream, PlayersTV did come in a dream, actually. It was a dream about media and sports in the middle of the night. I said, oh my God, why I'm dreaming about sports and media right now? I didn't know I was dreaming about it. I got a phone call 2 days later. It was Harrison Barnes that called me, NBA player. He said, hey, I want to create a production company. And I was like 2 weeks after I had that dream. So I literally I know how that works when God communicates to me at the end of the day. I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I stood fast on it, steadfast on it, took a step back on it, digested it, what it all meant. And then Jay-Z, the Hove, Beyonce's husband, created that guy, created a company called Tidal. And this is where education kicks in. You got to take something that's been done before in another space and say, how can I rinse and repeat it here? And I saw what he did with Tidal, where he brought all the artists together to create the first ever artist-owned streaming company. He brought in Beyonce, which is his wife. He brought in, Nicki Minaj and Kanye, God bless them, and all those different people to build the business. And they were trying to compete with Spotify. That was my blueprint, no pun intended. That was my blueprint. How do I create the first ever athlete-owned media company in television and media like he did in music? And I think that starts with market research, looking at the opportunity, looking at what you want to do, and figure out who's already doing it, but how do you make it different? Who worked at a company before and said, man, if I had this company, I would do these 10 things differently. Anybody in here that would do things differently? All right. That's how ideas are typically formed, from either a place of somebody got fired from a company. A lot of people that got laid off, and they inspired them to create their own businesses. It came from a place of conviction, and a place where you have to be able to take a step back and say, okay, well, if I'm going to create this business, how do I step out on faith and believe that this thing is going to work? Well, you got to trust the process. You got to trust your research, your due diligence, and your preparation. So, in a couple weeks, I did my TED Talk is coming out. I did a TED Talk a couple months ago. It's coming out before the new year, and I talked about care, C-A-R-E, care. And my mom always instilled in her boys, three of us, the Three Stooges. I'm the middle child, which I'm not sure that's good or bad. The other boys, Larry, he's 42, Shamar, he's 26. My mom named Shamar after Shamar Moore. She had a crush on him, I guess. And he gets trolled that for the rest of his life now. So Shamar is more of the geek, the nerd, loves computers, and then Larry's more quiet, reserved, but I was more of the middle child who was the dreamer. I was the one that would throw something to the wall and see what sticks. You can't tell me it's not going to work. Unless you give me 5 reasons why it's not going to work, then I'll consider it. I won't do it. So when I built PlayersTV, I knew that I had to embrace failure. So I did a TED Talk, acronym of CARE, C-A-R-E. And what my mom instilled in her boys was what the true meaning of care really means. And care is a reciprocated thing. I must care about you, you must care about me, and we must, show respect and love to one another. And C is compassion. Gotta have compassion for you, compassion for me. Even with your employees and your team members, oh my God, we got a lot of employees, they will make you mad. I want to say a whole lot of words I shouldn't be saying in here. And so compassion. A is authenticity. Allowing people to be authentic and allowing people to be who they are. I think as a society, we try to change people, and people are not going to change unless they want to change, and sometimes take to look in the mirror and say, man, I gotta change. I need to, maybe I am the problem versus the solution right now, but allowing people to be who they are and people be authentic who they are as well. Respect, is the R in care. Earn, not given. I must respect you, you must respect me. And we're gonna respect one another. And then E is empathy, Empathy is, if you have pride issues and gotta be right all the time, you can't unlock empathy unless you unlock humility first, right? And humility is, let's say, Dina right here. So let's say I offended her, or my tone wasn't the best, or whatever it may be. I'm personally saying, hey, it's not a big deal. Well, it's not a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to her. And I think that even in leadership and running a businesses and running a business with employees, you got to take a step back and say, all right, I see 80% of your point of view. I can see how it affected you, how it offended you. My apologies, please forgive me. So that way, that's the humility, putting myself in your shoes, understand why you felt the way you felt. And that's then unlocking the empathy now when humility is given. So remove pride, unlock humility to have empathy, and that's care. So that's something that my mom instilled in her boys, and that's how we live our life every single day, how we treat people, how do we collaborate with people. You know, I always say if I can't bring value to somebody professionally, spiritually, personally, I ain't the one for you to partner with at the end of the day. You know, I got to be able to pour in that cup some form of fashion, be able to bring value to you, some form of fashion. So when we kind of look at building a business and creating something, I don't want to give you the feel-good stuff. It's hard. It's not easy. It takes a whole lot of patience. It's a whole lot of uncertainty, but it also can be very, very rewarding, you know? And I think that with my journey to where I am now, you know, I think that I'm still Deron Guidrey in Dallas, Texas, and I'm just little old me. I'm accessible. I talk to everybody. I'm approachable because I never want to forget where I come from. And I always make sure that I'm always available to those that want to, you know, collaborate, speak, help people with their visions, their thoughts, you know, but be available and never think that you're too bigger than the next girl, the next guy. That's where people go wrong. That's the death of pleasure. Next topic is purpose over pleasure. You know, you got to understand what your purpose is and your why. Y'all hear people say, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? Well, I think you got to understand what your purpose is, you know, and pleasures. You can't go build something and create something with pleasures leading the mindset. You're going to lose every time. I'm going to build this business because I'm going to go buy a Bentley. Dead. Not going to happen. Not going to work. But I'm going to create this business and this opportunity to create opportunities for others that's bigger than me, myself, and I. You, yourself, and I. Right? That's the purpose. Being able to build something, create something that's bigger than you at the end of the day. And bring those, like for me, it feels good to have people that work for your company, at your company. I don't call our employees employees. We call them our business partners. You know, let them know, hey, you have ownership too. You have equity in this company as well. We're going to build together. We're going to grow together. Make them feel like they're part of the family because, you know, a lot of companies you don't feel empowered sometimes. You know, it's like a bunch of dictators and no one's wanting to collaborate and it's all this stress and everything like that. But I think it's really important to understand that what's your why and what's your purpose and what you're building, why you're creating something. And then step out on your own to go do something, but don't lead with pleasure though. Because if you're doing that, they say money's the root of all evil, is what they say, right? But I think that if you leave with the right purpose, the right mindset, the right mission, I think that you'll be, you'll be okay. So one thing I want to share here, guys, who knows the number one key ingredient here about winning? Does anybody know that it's like one word, one ingredient in winning? Does everybody know? Any here? Anybody taking a guess? Anybody? It's part of the same family. One more try. Anybody? Nope. All part of the same family. Consistency. It always wins. It always wins. Consistent how we show up and communicate. Consistent in how we lead and how we lead. Consistent in how we collaborate. You know, that always wins. Consistency always wins at the end of the day. You know, like the basketball player who's in the gym every single day, putting 10,000 hours in every single day. That's repetition, that's consistent. And being able to, you know, a lot of my friends said I was really weird at one point. They were like, yo, like, you wanna come hang out tonight? I'm like, no, I'm in, like, let me guess, you're in your binder writing stuff down. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because it didn't feel like work to me. It was like, I'm creating something, I'm building something. So it felt good to be able to stay back. Because at the end of the day, you can't be consistent if you're electing to go do things that's not gonna serve your purpose at the end of the day. You know, and that's having discipline as well, which is also being consistent in your discipline, you know? And so yeah, that's something that we always share with being consistent in your approach, because there's no way you can be a great leader if you're not consistent. You know, there's no way you can collaborate if you're not consistent. So, so I always try to make sure that when I built PlayersTV, I went through some hard times the first couple of years. We launched in the pandemic, March 2020, and then the world shut down, and we had to go pivot our whole entire business at the end of the day. Like, how are we gonna run a TV network from remote? Like, how does it even happen? How does it even work? You know, but we did it. We figured it out. Because I think, you know, being a real leader, you gotta be a competent leader to be able to understand pivots and understand that life is gonna throw you a curveball, and you ain't a good leader if you don't have pivots in place. We already have, right now, PlayersTV, we already have 7 things ready to go on our next 2 years of our roadmap. Already ready to go. No matter what happens in today's economy, we're already prepared and set, ready to go. And they're all could be worth billion-dollar ideas right now. And that complements the main ecosystem. So you gotta make sure when you take a step back and say, okay, what I'm trying to do right now to be a winner, how do I show up every single day to be consistent? But understand that how do I create opportunities for others that's bigger than me, myself, and I. You, yourself, and I. Purpose over pleasure. And then let's all talk about embracing failure. Embrace failure. Gotta embrace failure. Gotta embrace failure. If you're not willing to fail, you're not gonna succeed at the end of the day. I know it sounds cliche and it sounds like a great quote on Instagram, something like that, but you're not gonna, if you can't embrace failure, you're not gonna win. Because you gotta be okay with hearing that your baby's ugly. I was told PlayersTV wasn't gonna work. It won't work, it's ugly, ain't gonna work, ain't gonna work, ain't gonna do it, you know? And it feels so good when you come back around full circle years later and say, damn, you did it. I remember telling one of my athletes, he didn't invest actually, but I told him, I said, look, I'm gonna do this with you, without you, or against you. The common denominator is what? I'm doing it, right? We did it. But along the way, it came with a lot of failure along the way. You know, you gotta embrace the failure. What people lose is when they accept the failure, when they allow it to define them. They just give up, done, not gonna do it. And that's where people are constantly losing because they're accepting the failure. But failure should teach you, you know? I'm gonna stay on the record today, so if it's recording, you got it. But I was a 2.7 student, not the best GPA, unfortunately. I didn't apply myself in school. I was one of those guys like, hey, you got your notes for your test today? Can I use your notes and do the review real quickly? But my mom was a woman who had a very photographic memory where she didn't study 3 weeks out. She'll study like 40 hours before the test and go up there and do it. Good. That's the gift that I got from her. But I didn't apply myself. But what business taught me was it would truly humble you because there's a lot of bad people in business that will lie to you, that will steal from you, that will portray to be your friend, you know, and that will leave you lost and confused of like, why is this happening, you know? But it teaches you how to have great discernment as well, you know? Go to church, we talk about discernment, but we don't practice it. And we have to understand that your vision is not my vision. Your purpose is not my purpose. It's about unlocking where you're trying to go, where you got to go, where you need to go, right? And so my mission today, like I told Cliff, is that I turn down like 90% of opportunities just because I don't do things for money. I don't do things for attention. Quite honestly, I hate talking about myself, actually. It doesn't make me feel good. But, I like talking to small crowds, small groups, because it's more intimate. I went to the Forbes, I spoke at the Forbes BOK Summit a couple weeks ago, and I turned down the main stage. I said, no, I want to do a breakout session like this. This is more intimate for me because, doing a panel conversation, your PR person says, hey, here's your 4 questions they're going to ask you. Are you good with those questions? I'm like, people are paying $400 to be here. Give them a value of substance they can walk away from and say, you know what? Okay, I'm inspired. Now I want to go figure this thing out. So my mission in my life, my purpose is how do I serve? How do I live to love, live to give? And that's kind of where my purpose is at the end of the day. And it feels so good. We have one of your employees that's going to go on vacation, PTO, and it feels so good. You're like, oh man, that's awesome, because you could be able to provide that opportunity. And it feels amazing, But it comes with tough decisions as well too. When you're growing a business, and we had to go lay off some people 16 months ago. And it was hard. I remember like crying. I remember in tears. I'm like, we had to go lay them off. Like, I got to go have the conversation. That was like the hardest thing ever. But we brought some of those people back, and we're scaling, we're growing, we're booming. But I knew it taught me a lot of things along the way. Is that it's okay to be attached to those that you care about, but let them know your heart, your why, and your purpose. So trust can be built on a solid foundation versus on leased land. You can't build negative habits. You can't build negative things on a bad foundation of a home, right? You can't put a home on a bad foundation. It'll tilt over, it'll fall in, and same thing in life, right? You got to make sure that you build things on a solid foundation. Day one, relationships, all relationships, marriages, business relationships, is all the same thing these days. Because I have a business partner, I love him to death, Colin Costello. He's my co-founder, and we have a fight like once a month. And I'm like, if we get divorced, it'd be a $100 million divorce. It'd be bad, So who else is bigger than us at the end of the day? But we're able to have real great conversations about things because you have to be able to communicate. Yelling, screaming, and shouting, it doesn't go anywhere. But being able to understand like where we're trying to go and understand that us falling in our relationships can hurt everybody around us. So I think being able to be a real leader, embrace failure, understand your purpose, the care system is super important. Showing up every single day, having compassion, being authentic who you are, having respect for those around you, having empathy. I think that you have a great recipe of a good foundation to lead and build. So I'm honored to be here today, and thank you, Cliff, for having me. But I really, really want those that are here to really tap in, unlock within, figure out ways that you can build. So all you guys raise your hands for ideas. I think you should take a step back and re-invite those ideas again and see where things are at. So, but yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So it kind of came from some of the chat from the online attendees.
Mm-hmm.
So the premise of it is when you have your idea, what do you do next? So to add more context to it, I want you to share the story about when you got your idea for PlayersTV. And let's say before you reached out to get funding for it, how did you flush that out? What did you do? How did you flush out that idea before you started presenting it to other potential investors?
Number one, do research. Number two, talk to your friends and family, get like 30, 40 people and say, hey, I have this idea. Or ask a hypothetical question like I did. I said, hey, friend number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 friends. Hey, what if there was like this TV network of athletes doing reality shows, cooking shows, documentaries, bringing you athletes in a much more humanized way? Would you watch it? They were like, hell yeah, I'll watch it. That'd be great. I want to know who these people are as human beings versus the players on the court or the field, right? So test it with your friends and family, right? And then first is the market research, number one. So important at the end of the day. You could be spinning wheels and there'd be like 50 other companies doing what you're doing to the point where the investors are going to say, you know, why would I invest in this? There's 50 other competitors in your space. You know, what makes you different? So these invest rooms are very daunting. They're quote unquote know-it-alls, and so you gotta be prepared on information. So market research, test with friends and family, build a nice presentation that's highly visual, you know, not a Word document PowerPoint. Needs to have some stock photos, pictures, and all that type of stuff. So that's the first start. And then making sure that it's presentable to those and be able to convey that. So if someone asks me what PlayersTV is in the elevator right now, we're the first ever athlete-owned network, distributed to over 300 million households around the US, Canada, and UK. And that's who we reach. That's my elevator pitch.
Can you repeat that?
Elevator pitch. If someone asks me, what is PlayersTV? I can convey my business in less than 30 seconds. I can say we're the first ever athlete-owned TV network. We distribute it in 300 million households around the world in US, Canada, and UK. Right? Deals with Amazon Prime Video, Sling TV, YouTube TV, many more. Fast, quick. That's, you know, you have something you can explain your business really quickly, really fast, and what it is. So that's what I would say, Cliff. Those three things first is being able to do that.
So if you have any questions, ask for the mic.
Hello. Thank you for sharing. My question is, in the process of building your company, what tips or suggestions would you give in finding the right team? Because again, you can't do it alone. You have to have others. Because that is something that I've had an issue with, is finding the right team of people where everyone pulls their weight. You don't have slackers. You don't have people trying to, you know, what suggestions or tips would you give in combating that?
Good question. I would say, number one, if you're gonna hire somebody, the role that I got now, and I understand, is hire slow, fire fast. That's hire slow, fire fast. And it sounds pretty bad, but you gotta hire slow, the right people. And let's take it back a step now. Let's talk about starting the business and getting those people that can help you build your business. Number one, I would definitely establish a team of mentors and advisors, right? So I have 9 advisors in my company. They all serve a different purpose on why I need them, right? So example, so I have 3 advertising executive advisors that worked at Paramount, that worked at CBS, that worked those different places. I have technology advisors. One of my advisors just sold his company to Airbnb a couple days ago for $300 million. Adam Shire, he's a co-founder of your iPhone. I'm an Android guy. He co-founded Siri on your phone. Yeah, so I'm an Android guy. So he created another AI technology for Airbnb, just bought it actually for a couple $100 million a couple days ago. So creating advisors that can check a box for certain things you need in your business. So I now have my advertising advisors that can take me to some of the biggest brands in the world to get advertising for the network, right? I now have a technology advisor who can advise us on technology, how we're thinking. Remember I said earlier, think 10 steps ahead, have your pivots ready. So we're already looking for our technology play for AI a year down the road. We have one of the biggest geniuses in the world who's the AI guru, right? And Adam Shire from Siri. So putting advisors in place that can help serve a need in your business that you're building, that can really bring value and resources immediately, day one. Because you bring advisors in your company who can make phone calls for you, support the growth of your business or your idea.
Okay, thank you. And I'm in film production, so you can relate to that, and you know what just ended, the strike here is, you know, so.
Yeah.
Being in film production, it is hard, you know, the hire slow, fire fast, because it's hard. You can start out with it because of their, quality of work or something like that. So,
Yeah, it's especially in the content business. It's when you find your right people, and she knows as well too. You gotta find your right people and stick with them. I think when we start bringing in too many different people, and they have their own agenda sometime, and then, or they could be jealous of what you're doing, and then they'll go self-sabotage your thing, and not see you succeed and go do it. So it's ruthless, unfortunately.
So I would like you to speak to this. Imagine someone's coming to you, they have an idea, right? They are spending their time wisely on their purpose instead of choosing pleasurable things to do, right? But now, if they look at their circle of friends and they got to build a team, their response is, but I don't know anybody. So right now, you've mentioned some of the people who are part of your team, and those are like, man, how do I get on their Rolodex? How did you get there? So talk to somebody who's in the very beginning stage of their idea, and they've got to build these relationships. How did you do it when let's say in the very beginning? How did you have the relationships you have today? If you go back to the very beginning.
Let's be clear. Number one, I didn't have those day one. So I want to be clear with that. That wasn't day one. But I knew when I met with certain people where I was trying to go. So let's start with so Chris Paul, for example. I almost didn't go to that meeting to meet with him, dinner that night. I was like, I'm not gonna go meet with Chris Paul. I'm not gonna go do that. He's not gonna understand this. And my business partner was like, yo, we're gonna meet with Chris Paul. Let's go. Get your backpack like a little kid and let's go. I'm like, all right, let's. And I did that meeting, and then it changed my life forever at the end of the day. I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for Chris Paul. And I knew if I met with Chris Paul, I can get to Dwayne Wade, right? If I got to Dwayne Wade, I can get to Carmelo Anthony, Kyrie, whatever it may be. That's on that side. But from a fresh idea standpoint, when I had PlayersTV early on, the idea, the deck, the pretty deck, right? I had the whole story laid out on a deck. And I said, oh my God, I never did a TV network before in my life. I'm gonna do this. I went onto LinkedIn, typed in a couple people's names, added them, and said, hey, I see that you worked at the tennis channel. Like, I had this idea. I know you're not there anymore. But I would love to be able to kind of show what I got going on because I would really, really value your input, right? People want to feel needed and wanted at the end of the day, right? So that was my first start. I went to LinkedIn, found somebody who launched the tennis channel, and I said, I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on what I'm working on and get your thoughts and your reactions to it. That person came on, and that's when I started meeting more people in the space of TV, television, network.
So it sounds like if you have a good idea and you flushed it out, one way to reach out to people that's not currently in your network is to ask them for help on your idea. Like, what do they think about your idea, as opposed to asking them for money or asking them like many other people do. I'm sure with a lot of athletes, a lot of people come to them asking for money. But you had an idea, and asking them for their thoughts on your idea is one way of approaching or building relationships from scratch.
100%. I always say, if you go in for asking for advice, you walk away with a check. That's what I did. I didn't go in there and ask for money or nothing like that. I just say, hey, this is what we're doing. I'd love to get your thoughts and input on it. And we're going to build something special. But your resume seemed very valuable, very knowledgeable. So I want to be able to kind of, pick your brain. And people are willing to help. Especially if you have the right approach.
So share with me one of your core foundational beliefs or faith, because I have a belief of this, that life is a manifestation of ideas. And if you have a good idea, resources will be attracted to it. But you've got to be a good steward of your idea. You got to flesh it out. You've got to share it with other people, get their input, but it all starts there. So what would you say is your core belief when you had this idea and you didn't know where to go, didn't have any money, but you had to build it out? What is one of the core beliefs that you have?
What's the last? I didn't hear the last part. What's the
One of the core beliefs you have that you had to hold on to, and that was your faith in the absence of substance or anything that you could see, but you held on to it because you believed that you can get out of this. There's another side to where you were.
I trusted my preparation and research. I trusted what the information was out there, what the market was like, what it was. Like I trusted the information that I researched, the need, and the problem I was trying to solve, right? And that's, in every investor deck, you're gonna have to show the problem and the solution in the deck. They're gonna say, what's the why, what's the problem, what's the solution? Every investor deck, you gotta show that. That first page is gonna tell them immediately, are they solving a problem or are they not solving a problem? So I would say, trusting your research, so that way, if someone tries to combat you on what you're building, you stand 10 toes down and like, no, the data shows that this is needed out here, because the problem that I had in my company early on, everyone had their own idea. They as outside people. I remember calling one of my advisors. I was like, hey, we just keep hearing all these different people's, opinions internally. We're never going to launch our idea. We trust our gut and say, we're just going to go do it and trust the preparation that we already have here and just go do it. That's what we did.
So Ashley, who's watching online, has another question. She said she knows that you did your research, but did you do some kind of beta testing after you've done your research to test your idea of the PlayersTV? Any kind of testing or smaller beta testing did you do?
As I said earlier, it's your demographic, it's your friends, your family, and people of that nature. It's people, just random people. Like you have to go. I want to go talk to the super sports fan. I want to go talk to that fan that buys the jerseys, buys the shoes, paints his face. Yo, will you watch this if I had a show with DeAndre Jordan doing a cooking show? Like a Food Network show, like Guy Fieri, would you watch it on PlayersTV? Oh, hell yeah, that'd be dope. That tells me how these athletes are as humans, and they're regular people. So that's what we're doing. We were trying to solve the problem to bridge the gap between the fans, right, and the athletes. You can learn them in a much more humanized way as humans. They're all husbands, they're all wives, they're human beings. That's what we're trying to solve. So that fan can now not just buy the jersey, they can buy the products and they can watch the content of their favorite athlete. So that's your beta testing at the end of the day. Make a list of 100 people, take 10 people, refer me to 10 of your friends, and go ask them. Do a little survey. And luckily, my co-founder, Colin, had a YouTube channel. He now has 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube, my co-founder. We did a poll. We polled all the subscribers and said, hey, would you watch this if this existed on TV? And I think it was like 6,000 people polled and 85% said yes. The data's gonna speak.
First of all, thank you for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
So God has given me a vision for a real estate company. I'm the broker. I say I'm the steward of it because it is his vision. He's given me the entire marketing plan. I see the vision long term. Can you speak about when you've gotten that vision and you see it 5 years from now, but I'm not at day one, but you're at day one. How do you combat the little voice in your head that says, oh, you're not there yet, or, oh, so-and-so, they are already there, they've arrived. How did you how did you take it day by day to progress to that long-term vision that beyond a shadow of a doubt that God's given you, but you're not there yet?
That's a great question. So, first of all, I had experience before with God speaking through me through dreams, and it's paid off before. When I saw it before, it felt familiar to me, And I think that when I was able to step out that vision, I saw Players Tribune, which is a company, and I saw Uninterrupted with LeBron James company. But I saw the space where they were not going in. So I knew that I needed a couple of champions behind me that created that level of protection for me. So when I brought in LeBron, when I brought in Chris Paul, when I brought in Dwayne Wade, that was a lot of protection for me and validation as well to go out to market the business correctly. I knew I can go into a room like, yeah, I got Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul. Like, what are we doing? They're part of the family. Like, they gave me a lot of confidence. And then, but outside of the players, I had validation from the industry that says, hey, this could work, right? When you get Sling TV, who gives you a deal, they're telling you this could work. They know their audience. They got 3 million paying customers paying $40 a month, you know? So I think that that's the enemy talking. The enemy is the one saying, you're not good enough. You can't do this, or, you know. But no, if I feel like God is, I feel like he's losing some time because we're so busy letting the enemy take our thoughts and our doubts and rob us from those things at the end of the day. And I've seen so many people who are capable of being entrepreneurs, and they don't ever fulfill their full purpose at all because they told themselves they weren't good enough. And it never happened at the end of the day. So, yes, if you're very analytical, no one's gonna win. So there's levels to like analytical, right? So if you're analytical, OCD analytical, analyzing everything, now it becomes paralysis by analysis now. You feel stuck, right? You look up 4 months down the road, you're still stuck. And you're like, dang, someone else just did my idea, you know? So I would just say, like, analyze information, stick to your vision that God gave you, and just go do it, step out on faith. But you're gonna get people to tell you your idea's not gonna work. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, but you gotta believe that, though. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you again for being here. Mm-hmm. I'm Keisha with Catering Essentials. So my issue is I am an analyzer by day because I'm working finance, and that's just natural. Mm-hmm. I'm a numbers person. But I also have these two hands God gave me, and I craft, and I'm constantly creating. So while you're sleeping, I'm creating different dishes because we eat with our eyes. How did you go about getting funding when you first started with your vision, and how has it sustained you through the years, even through the pandemic?
Good question. So I made an assertive choice not to go get venture capital money from VCs and angel investors because no one tells you the real about that. No one tells you about that. It is a bad industry getting money from venture capital, and I'm gonna get to my point here in a second, but we see these companies are out here raising $100 million and $400 million, and it sounds really good. And we're celebrating these founders for doing it. But I always tell the person next to me, hey, go ask that founder how much of that company he still owns. So no one talks about that. No one talks about that. Because for every round you go through raising financing, you're giving up between 15 and 25% of your company, right? You know, and that's we don't hear that on the feel good stuff, you know, when we're watching that. But that's the stuff that's educational. Like, so when I saw that information, if you take the wrong money from the wrong partner that don't bring value to your overall business, they're saying, hey, here's $1 million, right? But I want 2 board seats. And the person who's the visionary, right? Like, oh, this is $1 million. This is great. I got $1 million coming in, right? But you don't realize that you're all about to give your company up pretty soon. Because you have a board of 7 people, because it's usually like an odd number for a board, right? And you don't want to make sure that that person that you're bringing in to get money into the company, they want 2 board seats, they are already plotting to take over your business and outvote you out of your own company, right? So we were strategic. We did the family and friends and athletes invested in company, and that's what we did first, right? And then we actually just launched the first ever fan raise where fans can become owners in PlayersTV. We did the SEC filings and all that, a Reg CF filing, and we raised over $3 million to now allow fans to be owners alongside their favorite athlete. And we have like 3,000 shareholders now, and that's how we did it. Now we're focusing on just revenue at the end of the day. Because we don't really need to go, raise $15 million. People in the media space raise a lot of money, but I don't have to raise that much money because I already have the talent built into my business. I don't have to go pay Kyrie Irving $1 million to show up. He's my owner in my company. He is the sweat equity. He is the brand equity, right? So I would just encourage you to, go through friends and family first to invest, and then you can get like maybe an angel investor who believes in the vision and mission, and they can invest that way. But I would definitely don't go to VCs too early, too soon, because it's pretty bad out there. And then how do we sustain through the pandemic was your last question. I think that we just stay lean and mean and also hire people that can do 3 things. Like we got people on our team that can do 3 things. Like right now, one of my creative officers, she can edit, she can take photography, she can write scripts, she can do multiple things versus paying somebody $80,000 to only do 1 thing. So I'd rather invest in that one person that can do 3 things. So that's kind of what we did. We kind of stay lean and mean, stay small, stay nimble to get to where we are now and focus on revenue, and we'll do close to 15 or 12 to 15 million when it's all said and done in revenue.
So there's a follow-up question to that. Before I talk about your legal entity and your setup and how that relates to you raising money, I want you to speak to when you're building a team and you don't have money to pay them. Were you ever at that point? And then how do you build a team of like-minded individuals to help you manifest your vision when you don't have money to pay them?
Good question. So what I did was I got people who believe in the mission and the vision of PlayersTV, who saw what it could be, what it can be, and they were already successful in their own right. They made a lot of money in their previous jobs already, So I was like, hey, I can pay you in equity right now. It's not worth anything right now, but I can pay you in equity to have you come on board to support and advise me at the end of the day, right? And I think that's getting advisors in your company who's gonna work off equity and put the pipes into the system before it can go, right? Because they're gonna be able to make a phone call that can change your whole trajectory of your business overnight, quickly. That's why you're bringing people into your company that have the relationships and the resources, right? So we got people with equity, and we have some people who actually forego their payment for a period of time, and then just helped out, graphic designers and all that type of stuff.
And then how soon did you get legal consultation and legal advice when you were in the formation of your idea?
Yeah. So what I did was I got a lawyer who came on board, traded his legal fees for equity in the company. So he was smart. He took the preferred and pushed his payment back and took equity and provided legal services, and that saved us a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars legal fees. So we did.
So I have a question. I actually started streaming online and then decided to get dressed and come in. So I have been listening
Appreciate
the whole
that.
time. I mean, you can see I'm still streaming currently. But earlier you mentioned about overthinking, because I think a lot of times sometimes we overthink something and we won't jump in and just execute, and I think they call it the analysis of paralysis. So I don't know if you ever experienced that, but if you did, or you know people who overthink and just get caught up in that cycle of not just jumping and just doing it. If you have any thoughts or advice about that.
Yeah, so me personally, I'm a dreamer. So I'm gonna go see what sticks anyway. Because at the end of the day, like what I have to lose is to somebody tell me no at the end of the day. So I don't fear rejection, number one. And I think people overanalyze things because they're afraid of the rejection they're gonna receive for their idea that they're working on, right? And so or they're just a perfectionist. They're like, oh, it's not good enough, I need to keep, and then that cycle keeps going to the point that you don't get off the ground, then life happens, and you get distracted from what you've been working on, and now your 9-to-5 job is to kind of taking over the time now and all that. So I think just being able to just, again, preparation, believing in your research, and just like really just like getting out there doing it at the end of the day. Like I know it sounds cliche, but you got to just be a doer and just do it at the end of the day. The first step is the idea. That's the first step. But I think it's good to have constructive criticism. It's good to have, constructive analyzation of things for sure. But I think when it becomes like super compulsive, it robs the success of that thing could be. So.
Can you maybe speak towards why programs like this are actually important? Because you may see, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs or business owners, or they want to be the boss, but nobody really wants to put the time. So we have programs like this where in the bare minimum, we might have 20 people here, so should be the first step forward.
Yeah. So what's the question one more time?
So the question is, what would you say about like programs like this that are genuinely trying to reach out the community to I encourage them to use these resources?
Gotcha. So I personally still go to these events as well as a spectator. I'm a sponge on the wall. I like to just be able to, I love education. I love documentaries. I love just feeding my spirit on things. So these things are so important, especially the small settings are so good, because I think that you can have a lot more, intimate conversations on building. And I think that, when you can bring people together, I actually met somebody a month ago, went to an event, and they met their business partner at an event like this, and they have a $5 million a year business right now. So like, this is rare, bringing like-minded people together, right? Versus like this big, huge, like 30,000 arena, and we discussed that last night actually. That is, those can work when it's a big thing. They have breakout sessions that can actually, let's say I want to be a real estate investor. I can go to a breakout session to learn about real estate investing, right? That becomes valuable, but these intimate settings are really just so impactful, and especially when there's people in your community you can go grab coffee with and connect with. Like, I want to talk to her now and get an understanding about what kind of content she's creating. And I know Dina's doing content, and like I want to bring people together who can make content and see if we can use them for PlayersTV type of projects, right? I'm always thinking about ways that we can connect people in our community on working with, and I think these are the events that allows it to happen for sure. Super important.
Hi. So thank you for being here. And two, congratulations on being able to bring your idea into to life, right? I'm a professional coach, and one of the things that I think we do a lot of times is glamorize what it is to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. And a lot of times people don't understand what really goes into what it takes to create and build something. And so one thing that I typically ask my clients is, to get where you're trying to go, what's important to take with you, and what are you willing to give up to get there? So I'm curious for you, what was important for you to keep with you while you're on this journey of building this major business, and what did you have to give up to get to where you are today?
Super good question. I can tell she's a coach. I can tell, yeah. Wow, good question. So I had to create a smaller circle. I had to be selfish with my time. With you have friends, you have acquaintances, right? And like I use the word friends like very, very like it's like saying I love you, very, very serious, right? Like friends, a friend to me is somebody if your car breaks down, they're there, not AAA, right? Those are friends. But my acquaintances, I had to kind of choose and pick when I hang out with them and all that. So I had to give up that social life a little bit, to lock in on the main thing. Because if I really believed in my idea, like I said I did, those athletes who invested in my company, they're investing in me as the person. So at the end of the day, they're seeing me out here partying and on Instagram, IG Live, in the club, whatever it may be. Well, I guarantee you, these athletes, business managers, or the financial advisors, like, too risky. Yeah. Can we trust him with that $1 million investment? Yeah. Is he going to splurge on a new car? Or is he going to actually put it into the company? Right? Like that matters. So I had to really change my thought process of who I hung out with, and really just stayed in the lab and just like ideating, working, and times at the coffee shops and hanging out. But I think that also I had to remove the pride as well. My pride was like OD. It was like bad, to the point that I didn't even like myself, right? So I think I have to leave the pride at the door as well. So I can allow people to give me good, solid, sound advice, be able to give me, because I had one advisor walk away from me early on in the process. She was just like, hey, you're not listening? And she says, hey, one of us got to go. She said, it ain't you because you own the company. I'm just going to go. I'm like, but she loves me now. She's back in the company now. She's back with us now. But it humbled me early on, though. It really made me look in the mirror. That humility we talked about, that care system. Like I had to look at myself and say, well, maybe I am the problem, And that was the camel that broke his back that changed everything forever, though, I think. So, yeah. So changing my circle of influence, then removing the pride.
So I have a question for you. Hey, my name is Dr. Travis Brock, CEO and founder of 360 Adjuster Academy. My question for you is, I love a word you said, which was very important, consistency. When you first started out, what was your day-to-day like? Because I know that the idea is so grandiose. I'm a big dreamer as well, but it comes down to the little detail of like, that sucks, right? So what was your day-to-day like when you first started out?
I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. like Oprah did, so I won't lie to you and tell you that. That didn't happen. Every day, when the idea first started, when I had the idea, I remember calling Colin, my co-founder, because he had a YouTube channel. And I remember calling him and saying, hey, I have this big idea, man, and I think this can be really, really amazing. Then my other basketball client that I used to work with, named Anthony Tolliver, he's one of our first athlete check writers in the company, how we met Chris Paul. And I remember saying to them, like, hey, like, if you guys were really serious about this idea that I have, Colin, fly to Dallas, Texas next weekend. He flew down. He showed up at Anthony Tolliver's $10,000 kitchen table in Prosper, Texas. So, and we built the business there. And after that point, we were, it was just like every day sharing information. And I remember getting mad at Colin and Anthony, because I'm like, I'm in it. Like I'm boom, boom, locked in, I'm researching, I'm sharing information, I'm sharing data, I'm sharing stuff that I'm reading, I'm sharing the future of media. And Colin just reading my messages. I'm like, bro, you're reading my messages. It's like the blue check is there. You're reading the messages. And oh, sorry, I was with the kids. And so I remember having that talk with him. It's like, look, we got to be able to be locked in on this thing, because we can't go into Sling TV, never ran a network in our life, and saying, give us a distribution deal. We don't even know how cable works. We don't even know how anything works. We're over here just have this big idea. So consistency and preparation. So we dove in every single day, every single day, every single day. And we were having 3 or 4 hour conversations. And after that, it's just getting into a whiteboard, just drawing it out on the whiteboard, figuring out how it connects there, how does it connect there, and being consistent in that. And I would say lastly, what was really interesting to me was that one of my advisors told me, she says, Deron, you gotta get rid of the word busy out of your vocabulary. And I look back at it now, that word has a negative connotation to it, busy. Oh, hey, Deron, sorry, I've been busy and we can't meet right now, but we can meet 2 weeks from now. That just made me so mad, man, when having these people you're trying to meet with, pushing back 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, are you that busy from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 3 weeks straight? That's miserable, you know? So that word busy, it means it's busyness. You choose what you'll make time for. So that way, consistency is a true measurement of what you're making time for and prioritizing what's important along that journey at the end of the day. So I gave a long story, but I want to tie it back to consistency. I think that's the thing of the being able to stay focused every day, preparation, researching, reading, building out decks, building out visuals, hiring a great graphic designer that can paint the story for you in a deck, and all that type of stuff. So just every single day, pushing at it. And staying on with your advisors who you're giving equity to. But yo, I know the equity is worth 50 cents right now, but like, yo, I really need an introduction to Sling TV. I need that, please. And just staying on it, staying relentless on it as well.
So I'm going to share some of the takeaways that I'm hearing, right? So, and we talked a little bit about this last night. So number one would be how good of a steward am I to the ideas that I'm getting? And I would ask you, as I share the 3 things that I'm taking away from this, I would ask you to think about the same thing and possibly share it so that we can enrich and encourage each other. So number one, am I being a good steward of the ideas that God has given me? Am I doing the work? Am I flushing it out? That's number one.
Care. Are you caring for it?
Yeah.
Like you can't be a steward of something if you don't care for it, right? You can't love that thing or love that person if you don't care for it, right? You gotta like care. You can't love something if you don't care for it, right? So that care is a super important word. Like it's super important because it connects to it's the pipe to every single thing. You can't be consistent if you don't care about being consistent, right? Like that's the super important thing. So that is a major takeaway as well, care.
And so the second thing is time. And I like what you said about purpose versus pleasure. Like how much time am I spending watching TV? How is that moving me towards my purpose? I can find anybody to go to a happy hour, but can I get a group of people together to help us flesh out each other's visions board? So how am I spending my time? And am I really cultivating trusting relationships? We talked about Munson Steed, and he came and did a talk about every year you should be meeting 100 new people. You mentioned 100, but 100 new people. Imagine meeting 100 new people a year. That's one person every 3 days. And are you bringing value to that relationship? And so those are the 3 things. It's ideas. Am I being a good steward of my ideas? How am I spending my time? And who am I building collaborative, trusting relationships with? And that's where I'm really got to look at how I'm spending my time and how do I elevate that to manifest the goals and the ideas that I have. So I wanted to share that with you because that's what I'm taking away. And you're an example of that, right? We reached out, we met each other, and we talked about like us, like we got to know each other, right?
Fellowshipped.
Yeah, and so my thing here is that I'm so appreciative of you. I say this all the time because you are spending your most valuable resource, like we all are, here today. You could be doing other things today, and you're pouring into the Empower series in the community. And I believe that what you're doing is really enriching lives that we can't even count right now. And so I'm words cannot reflect my appreciation and thankfulness.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Comments? So I do have a question for the audience. So what are you taking away from this? You know, I shared, if you feel like sharing, share, but what are you taking away from this? The most respectful thing I think we can do is take ideas and act on them.
Yeah.
So tagging along to what you said about pleasure versus purpose, one of the things that I've started doing more in the past 2 weeks, and ever since I've started doing it more, I've just been seeing how God has been moving, but leading more with what is the purpose of my business, as opposed to just talking about the business and what I'm doing. The business itself is no different from just saying that I own a real estate company. There's a lot of real estate companies out there. My company is Status. God gave me the name. Status is an acronym, stands for higher level of success, trust, assets, teamwork, uniqueness, and service. And while all of that is very unique, the purpose of Status is to be able to give away a home every single year to a deserving family. And the more that I've been sharing about that in the past 2-3 weeks, it's like God has been moving and opening new doors. And I'm just like, okay, I haven't been leading with the purpose enough about what Status is. I've talked about what Status is, and yes, that's unique, but the purpose itself. And so hearing you talk about that, that's kind of confirmation to me that's like, okay, continue leading with that purpose, and then I feel like other things will continue to follow.
That's your impact, though. That's the impact of that makes your company unique by itself. The impact of what you're trying to accomplish, right? It's like for instance, so my impact right now. So when it's all said and done, first of all, I want to make sure I get those 2 words from God that says "well done." That's what I work for every day, make sure it's well done for Him. But number 2 is like, when it's all done, my mission is to be able to help 100 people build $1 million businesses. Then I'll be a part of a $100 million impact with that as well. So that is my goal. I want to take people that look like me, that have a vision, and have them be a part of their journey to reach millionaire, whatever it needs to be, but being a part of that mission with them along the way. If it's like a passive investment, if it's like just investing in them, bringing my investors to the table. If I can help 100 people become that, I think my impact is part of that as well. So I think impact is your Status real estate. That's what makes it different. Like, hey, this is how I'm different, because we're serving people, but also making impact by hopefully can give a home away for free to somebody that need one. So when you go to an investor or something like that, or a home builder or a developer or something like that, you can say, hey, invest in my company because this is what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. You know, so yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Hello, my name is Arcuya, and I want to speak on the point where we talked about how you have a dream and you have no idea in the world how you're going to get it done. I've been an air traffic controller for 32 years, just retired October 31st of this year, and decided to do a TV show. So I wrote a pilot just based on learning from online classes. Never went to school, 2019, and it's an award-winning pilot. It's a Porous Destiny. So good with reading and studying and taking time away from my friends to get the thing done. But what I'm taking away from today is to have a mentor, someone who has done that. Look at their story, see how they've done it. So when I do my pitch in the pitch tent in December at the film festival in Atlanta, I will be so ready to get this thing on TV as a TV series. So thank you for that.
No problem. Have you met Dina right here?
I have a car.
Okay.
This has been so powerful.
Yeah, and there's 3 continents women in a row, right? Like in a line right here.
So this is where you are the Empower Series, right? You are the Empower Series. So 2 questions online. Number 1 is, when you gave the example of sharing the idea to someone that you didn't know on LinkedIn. So they wanted to know, Were you concerned about them stealing your idea? That's one. And then the second question is, what's next with Players TV? And do you plan on doing any events in DFW? So those are two questions.
Yeah. Well, number one, I didn't put my idea in writing on LinkedIn message. Number one, I didn't do that. I just reached out to a couple people that were older people that been around for 30 years in the media space, that they were kind of already retired anyway, but they had the relationships that added value to the idea that I'm trying to build. So I didn't feel threatened by them because I knew I already had access to the athletes and, you know, whatever it may be. So those athletes were more my protection, right? So when I went to those two executives, it was more about getting time on their calendar via LinkedIn, right? Because I said, hey, I want to walk you through something, and may I share this with you via a Zoom or whatever it was at the time. That's what I did. So it was more of a presentation-based thing versus here's my stuff, dissect it, digest it. And that happens in a content world. You have a deck. You're like, I don't want to share this with them too soon, too quickly. I want to make sure I can walk them through this show that we're working on, or whatever it may be. So in the future Players TV, where we're headed, we are. I showed you last night. We are launching our on-demand platform pretty soon. We think that'd be our $500 million get for us, I think. So I think that's where we're headed. We're about to acquire a female athlete, female sports content company. We'll be announcing that hopefully by January 1. So we have a space for women now can really create and build their content. It's important. Pairing up our female athletes that want to do cooking shows with producers and directors and all that. Like that's something that we're looking to do, by January 1. But yeah, focusing on our next thing, and we'll be announcing, a big relationship with a big studio as well too pretty soon. Yeah.
So this is not the end, right? This is the beginning of relationships. Definitely, man, thank you for what you're doing. Before we say goodbye to our online communities, I do want you to kind of touch on two things. If you have any closing comments, anything beyond what you've already shared, but then also we want to make sure that people make the connections. So make the connections with the people in this room. But if people want to reach out to you for information, what's the best way of getting in touch with you?
Yeah. So, my email and then also LinkedIn. We just do LinkedIn and email. I don't want to say it on video. It's out there forever on video, on YouTube, and I'm getting 800 emails from people. So, but yeah, just connect afterwards. But my thing is, we all know somebody who knows somebody that can help with something or somebody. In real estate, we know people. What you're doing, know people. We can always connect people at the end of the day because it's about connecting. But I would say my closing thing is that people always ask me, they say, hey, how do you get this many athletes together? 60 plus athletes, and don't they have egos? I'm like, well, I have a PhD in ego management now, man. I have a PhD in this now. I can manage the ego pretty good. But no, they didn't. They came on for a mission. They said, hey, we're so much powerful together. We can, because the media does the me versus you versus me type of stuff, right? We're like, no, you guys are bigger together. You guys should be owning the Ritz-Carlton Hotel together like those owners are doing together, right? You guys are the future. So that is what I'm gonna say to you all. It's like, meet people, connect with people here, find ways that you guys can do something together, because building something together can be so much powerful together, and hell, find a co-founder as well at the end of the day. My co-founder that I have, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for him at the end of the day. We balance each other. He's my rib where I lack at the end of the day, right? He's a person that's good in operations. He's very organized and tedious on things. I'm more like, I don't know, figure it out type of thing, But it works because I'm the person deal with the talent. I deal with the athletes. I deal with the marketing. I deal with the sales team. I deal with that part works. So we bring it together, it works. So that way I'm not doing what he's doing and vice versa. We're not clashing. What people go wrong at is that you're bringing in partners that can do what you can do. Like I want to bring in a partner that can handle something that I can't do very well, right? So it's like relationships and marriage, right? You should be with somebody that can bring value to where you lack, right? So it can work. But you can't have two alpha males in a room. It's not going to work, you know? So I think that I would empower you all to, like, you know, versus going out solo dolo by yourself, it's like, find somebody you trust. Get a co-founder. Get somebody that can help build with you, that shares the same vision and purpose, you know? And then I think that, you know, hell, Mark Zuckerberg, he had co-founders. You just know about him, but he had co-founders. You know, Steve Jobs had co-founders, right? You hear about Steve Jobs. So I think that we got to get out of this whole, like, me, myself, and I. Because you're going to lose that fight all the time. Because collaboration will always win at the end of the day in consistency, period. So thank you for having me, guys.
Hey,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. So as we say goodbye to the online audience, I just want to say that Dr. George Fraser said this about relationships. He asked, what's a relationship? He says the relationship is when you meet, you connect with somebody, you do one of four things. You either add, subtract, divide, or multiply. And he says, why would you be with somebody who's subtracting from your life, they're subtracting from yours? Thank you, it wasn't on. Now you can hear me. So what is a relationship? You either do one of four things. You either add, subtract, divide, or multiply. So why spend time with someone who's subtracting from your life, you're subtracting from theirs, and at the end result, you get division. So don't waste time with people who are doing nothing. Create relationships with people where you're adding to their life, they're adding to yours, and through that comes multiplication. That means more lives are blessed. So hold on to that. Stay connected with us on social media. If you want to stay connected or email any comments to the Empower Series, use our email address, which is thrive@empowerseries.com. Thank you, and until we meet again, be inspired to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
More connections that need to be made. I will tell you